So that is what this video focuses on. It's that process of data analysis. So let's begin by simply defining data analysis for a teacher inquirer. So while it might sound a little scary, data analysis and overwhelming, simply all you're doing is creating a story of your learning as an inquirer based on a close and careful examination of the data that you collected. Now, remember way back to that first introductory video on inquiry, I did define data analysis for you at that time, and I talked about the dynamic interplay between data collection and data analysis. I think it's going to make a lot more sense to you now that we have gone in more depth about the data collection process to really understand that dynamic interplay and to also understand the definitions of two different types of data analysis. The first is formative and the second is summative. So let's look at those definitions now. So formative data analysis is the process of carefully considering data as you collect it, using your consideration of it to help inform instructional decisions and next steps in your inquiry. And formative data analysis, again, that's something that we as teachers do all the time. So I think this notion of formative data analysis, like if you see something particular in student work and it triggers something in your mind to make a change or adjustment in your teaching, that's formative data analysis. If you observe a student action and that triggers something in your mind to make an adjustment or change in your instruction and the next steps in your inquiry, that's formative. And that's what we do all the time, right? We observe during a lesson how the lesson is being received by students, and we make adjustments as we go. So formative data analysis is pretty intuitive for teachers, and it's something I think that will come quite easily to you. However, there's also summative data analysis, and that might be a little different than what you're used to. So summative data analysis happens after all of your data for an inquiry is collected. And it is defined simply as creating a story of your learning as an inquirer based on a close and careful examination of your data, making claims about your learning, what you learned, and supporting those claims with evidence from your data. So think back, for example, to our illustration of the inquiry process in the very first video by Debbie Hubble. If you recall, through data analysis, she distilled three themes from her qualitative data: enjoyment, um, academic knowledge that students could talk about, and positive social interactions. And remember, I named each one of those themes, and then I used excerpts from the Dear Mrs. Hubble letters to illustrate those themes. So that's the idea about making claims about your learning. Debbie learned that using fractured fairy tale plays brought joy and enthusiastic response from her students. And then she supported that claim with evidence from her data, excerpts from her Dear Mrs. Hubble letters. Okay, so that's a very quick review of the and definition of summative data analysis. But you can see in this picture that I selected to put on this slide, it can be overwhelming to teacher inquirers after they've engaged in a cycle of inquiry and they've collected data over time to sort of know, like, okay, what do I do with it when I get to the summative data analysis process? And you might feel some anxiety, like, help me, I've collected all this stuff. Now, what do I do? So have no fear. That is what this video is all about.